Hi everybody, welcome to my newest art journal watch along video. This week it's a bit more of a serious topic and that's why the design is so simple. If you know these videos and if you know me for a bit now, you know that I am more on the elaborate pages when I don't have a serious thing that happened in that particular week, so it being more of a serious thing here, as you can maybe guess in the name of the title of the video already. We had a funeral this week, and this is pretty much the romanticized way of looking at passing. Now, I'm starting off of the technical things going first. I'm starting off with pastel chalk. Now, I know when I started this page, I knew that I wanted to go with pastels that are watered and ink only. So I knew what kinds of materials I wanted to use. So this is pretty planned. I'm going in with different shades of yellow and light orange as well as green to make a flower field or something that looks like a flower field in the yellow colors, not only because yellow represents the the sickness and the death. You know, if you ever read the biography and stuff for Vincent van Gogh, you get a lot of color explanations in his paintings, so whatnot. So I went for the yellows, and I'm just applying the pastels very roughly, and then I'm watering them down and forming kind of flowers here. It's all very loose. So, the thing that surprisingly happened on Valentine's Day, lucky us, we're not celebrating this that much over here, but my husband's grandfather passed away unexpectedly, kind of. He's been struggling health-wise for a bit, but we hoped that he would have another year or two until it was time to move on. So it was kind of a surprise here, and we laid him to rest this week. So this is pretty much the telling the thing story here. There's not much how do you call that? Damn, now I lost my train of thought. I'm so sorry. So it was okay for everybody. Of course, it's sad that he passed and us all not being able to say goodbye, because it was, as I said, unexpected. But everybody in the closer family, and it's a very small one, said, you know, he had a good life, so it's okay. He was content. He was he enjoyed all the small things and had a good and content life. He was fine. There were no major things on his bucket list and stuff like that. So it was okay that he passed, though not being the oldest of all people. So that pretty much it just ends on a, I don't want to say a light note, but it's like, okay, it's not great, but it's okay, it's fine. So I think that this pretty much comes through once the painting here is put together. It's like, yeah, we're very sad, but life goes on, you know? So there's this kind of optimism, or this kind of calm and, content. Being content, being okay with things. That's pretty much what I want to transport in this painting. Not like the overwhelming grief that you can't handle, or the scary parts that some people might feel when it comes to passing and their loved ones not being there anymore, you know? So this is just, that's why I said in the beginning, a romanticized way of depicting passing on, because I know it's not for everybody like that, and it's not when any person passes on. So it varies on the relationship that you have with the person leaving Earth, and I just want to say that this is pretty much the we are all okay but very calm kind of depicting passing on, which I think is one of the good ways. I know there's no good and no bad way, but this one I think is the way that everybody wants to have, like not being scared or not being so overwhelmed that you're paralyzed in your life. So yeah. Anyways, while I rambled on, all of the water is now applied to the pastels, and you can see it has pretty much a watercolory look, but I think the colors are way more brilliant and vibrant and there on the page and visible on the first layer. So if I'm impatient, or if I really want strong colors in the first layer, I tend to go for pastels instead of watercolors. Also, this is a mixed media paper here. It can hold only so much water, so it wobbles and warps quite a bit when it comes to applying watercolor and having a full painting there. So now that my first layer is dry, I'm adding a bit more of the green grass shrubbery things, and I'm also adding a tiny bit of brown just to add dimension and depth to this flower field, which is, again, like I said, very loosely painted and intended to be that way, because this is not the focal point. All the colors, all the parts of the painting, all the whole composition, every part has its meaning, but this is not the major focal point there. I reserve that for the inks, I might say. So I'm just adding a few more dots of flowers, a few more stems that I'm going to dissolve with water as well, and just pretty much adding another layer for details here. I'm also going with a smaller brush so that I can control things better, and I really like this kind of painting. It almost feels like painting with watercolor pencils, so very controlled. When you apply the pencils on dry paper and then water everything, it's way more controlled, as if you'd go in with liquid watercolor, like from pots. So I really like this controlled kind of watercolory look. Also, when it dries, the pastels get back their chalky feel. So you can't rub off the color as you could with dry pastels, but it has that chalky feel, and I like that a lot too. So this is just way more controlled, which I guess I prefer on smaller surfaces. I'm way better to paint watercolors on big surfaces. So I do have to have a certain size to really make it work. And with pastels, I can go way smaller. For whatever odd reason, I'm not the biggest fan of watercolor pencils. Going in with a dry and then adding water. Maybe it's because then I could go with colored pencils all the way. You know, it's the same work, but you have to apply water as well. You know, I don't know if it's that, why I'm only using those for sketching and details later. Anyways, I'm adding some more orange flower buds here that are just peeking out of the yellow field. And I imagine these to be, well, tiny yellow flowers. Like you can barely see any grass or ground, only a few parts of green and brown in there because it's all just lovely yellow colors. So I'm letting that sit a bit, going over it with my blow dryer, just drying parts off so that I don't smudge and smear anything on the next step, which is already going in with ink. Now I have a pen where you can switch the tips when it comes to ink things. I don't all have that. Boy, I can't talk. I don't only have the usual pens, but I do have this kind of pen, and the tips are interchangeable. So I'm taking a very thin, very fine one, and I do have black ink that I start with, though this has a touch of sepia in it. It's not like a black, but kind of a black that you'd see on like really old documents when it's already fading out to brown, because the light hit it so much over the last, I don't know how many 100 years. So my black ink has a touch of that brownish color in it. And I'm just squiggling like crazy and trying not to have a straight line and control the pen too much, and purposely having uneven lines and squiggle lines to form a tree here. And I'm starting with the branches, the three major ones, and then going on with a few smaller twigs, and like that, forming the crown, the head of the tree first before I go in with the stem. So here's just a funny fact. When I paint with a big brush, or any brush I should say, it being watercolors or it being acrylics, I start with the trunk of the tree and then branch out, pun not intended, into the branches of the tree. If, however, I do paint or draw a tree with, as you can see, ink here, or with markers like, let's say, Copics or Indian ink markers, I tend to start at the branches and then fuse them and put them all together in one weird trunk. For the life of me, I don't know why I do that. I don't know if there's logic behind it, or if that's just what I do. I wonder if other people have these weird differences in how they draw or paint something depending on the material they use as well. So if you listen to this and you say, yeah, that's me when I do this and this, please let me know in the comments below. I'm really curious if there's other people that approach a certain subject to paint or draw differently depending on what material they use. So I'm already at the trunk section, and I don't want this to be the beautiful tree, but I want this to look ancient and ready to tip over, but still strong, you know? I want this to be looking as if it was standing somewhere where there's a lot of wind gushing and you don't have any leaves yet because it's winter. The first leaves on trees are pretty much just getting ready to pop here. It's the first warm days, and very soon cherry trees and whatnot will have flowers and blossoming like crazy. But at this state, it's still all very bare, and I want this tree to just look like the oldest of all oak trees, but almost ready to tip over because of the strong winds on, I don't know, that hillside. Maybe it's a hilly side. I don't know. I didn't think that part through. So here's the funny thing that I just found out. If you paint ink, certain kinds of ink, I should say, this is Indian ink, if you put that on top of the watered down pastel chalks, it starts to bleed. So I didn't know that, because I think it's just because the water the paper is still damp a bit, because on the yellow stripe in the heaven, there was no bleeding. So maybe I was just not patient enough, and the flower field was just a bit damp still. However, I'm turning that into an advantage, which is I don't have to have as many squiggle lines and everything put down to go for the shadow areas or for the darker areas anyways in the tree. So I'm pretty much taking advantage of the bleeding in the roots of the tree that way. I'm still squiggling lines when it comes to shading the tree trunk and creating the bark. And I want this tree to look bare and old and not pretty, but I don't want it to look scary. So I'm adding a few of these tiny squiggle branches just to not have the tree look too scary. We all know those kids fairy tales where you have the trees that scare the little hero, it being a guy or girl, it doesn't matter. But for instance, there's Snow White. When you watch Snow White and you're being 4 years old, the Disney movie, by the way, the trees can really scare you, you know. So I don't want to have that kind of a tree, so I'm adding a lot of branches to just have it look old and rusty and strong, but not scary. So after that tree is in place, I'm adding just weird squiggle lines to the flower field / grass sections, and I'm just drawing in a few stems, a few flowers, having a few bundles of grass stems standing out and giving it a bit more, well, I don't want to say depth, because it's still very loose, very abstract, pretty much modern kind of a painting. There's not a lot of realism or shading going on, but I want to connect the tree to the field. So by putting in some ink in the flower field as well, it just connects the two parts of the painting, the tree being the focal point and the flower field being the supportive part of the painting here. And you can see that I imagine this particular scene being in a very windy, very open area, because all the grasses and bushes and trees are not straight. And I think it's kind of charming, though while I drew that painting, I didn't realize. And then I took the photos for the blog and this video here and whatnot, and it's like, ooh, everything's crooked. Okay, what did I do there? You know, but I think it's kind of charming. It's so many levels that you can interpret whatever into the grass being crooked. But I'm not even gonna go there, because it's just my hand brain being unable to have straight lines going fine. But it's actually easier with the tip that I'm using with the pen here. You can see I can hardly go for the whole line, the whole straight line with the tip, so maybe that's why I did that. So even more jiggle jaggle, I'm drawing in very sketchy, very loosely, just pretty much hinting at 5 people that are leaving the scenery, and the title pretty much gives another thing that those 5 people could do. They could be passing the tree. So these 5 characters are, well, pretty much the family that said goodbye this week, and which is my husband's grandmother, his parents, him and me. So you can apply any names, anything to who's who in the squiggly lines. But that's just what I depicted here. You could easily say they're standing at a grave on a cemetery saying goodbye, and you just don't see the parts where the graves are yet because this is a hilly surface. Or you could say you're just passing, you're just walking on a field. It's not even a cemetery, and I think it isn't. It's just some scenery that, well, we 5 just passed. It could be a state in your life, just like a benchmark, that kind of thing. Could be anything, but it is passing, and it is in a group. And what I drew on purpose, not only because I drew with ink, which just makes it nicer when a few dark spots are pretty close together. All the 5 of us are walking very closely together, so that is not drawn or painted like that because of the material that I used, or the ink, I should say. I should give it a name, but it's because that's what is true in real life. We're not sitting on each other's couches every Sunday and prying to each other's life, but excuse my language, when shit goes down, we are very close, supporting each other like all the way. So on the right hand side now, I just added some squiggles, added the horizon, or inked the horizon, I should say, because it was already there with the yellow pastels, and added a thing that could be a bush or it could be a gravestone. That's up to your imagination, or up to whatever you see in this painting. And I'm pretty much just adding weird squiggles and lines to add the dimension now. So once I cleaned my pen ink tip, I changed colors. I went for the other color that is associated with death and grief, which is purple. So it's not only black, which is in the painting. It's not only yellow, which is in the painting, but it's also purple. So what I'm doing here is drawing in a bird that is just sitting on the tree looking. And you can, well, obviously it's totally obvious to me. This represents my hubby's grandfather just watching us passing him by, saying goodbye, maybe. I don't know. I'm not a big person believing in afterlife and any resurrection, religious beliefs, whatnot. I'm I believe that we are just energy and that we float around as molecules in space once we pass. I don't believe that our souls pass on, that our conscious passes on, but that the essence of us, which is energy, passes on to just go into another state. So it's very difficult, however, to depict that in a painting, you know? So I went with a bird, because floating in space and flying everywhere you like is pretty much the same kind of freedom that I think you'd have once you passed away. All the things that might not have been pretty in life are just gone. You don't have to deal with it. You can float, or parts of you, molecules of you, can float, and that's why I took the bird here to incorporate the notion of freedom, of rest, of content, of wisdom, old age, all of that. All that is the person that passed on. So I went for the birdie there, and I took purple, the color purple, for, of course, the passing, funeral, death topic here. So so cliche. Wow. I'm adding, just by the way, a few bits and pieces here, just some dots on the grasses, so there could be flower buds, and not flower buds, but on the tips of grass it has some blossomy things sometimes, especially chive has that, or garlic, these kind of blossoms like once a year. So I'm just adding these kinds of things on the grass bushes here with the purple ink, just by adding some dots. Again, staying very loose, very abstract, very whimsical, pretty much. Not too much realism there. And I'm also adding a few strokes of purple ink to the tree trunk and that bush or gravestone, whatever you want to see on the right hand side on the horizon. That's totally up to you. And that pretty much is my piece for this week. I hope you enjoyed watching along, and I hope I made sense with what I said in this video. Thank you very much for watching all to the end. Please like and or share this video if you liked it, and if you think other people should see it. Also, if you haven't already, why not subscribe to the channel? I got lots of art, cooking, and board game videos for you pretty much every day of the week. So enjoy. If you have any questions, any comments, well, put them in the comment section below. I would very much appreciate that. And I see you tomorrow with a new Tiny Tuesday, or next week on Monday with a new art journal page, in case you just watch these videos. Thanks again. Have a very good one. I'm going to see you. Bye-bye.